Hi, it's Tracy Mode here. I am coming back to a painting I started in my last video, showing you how to paint a starry night and how to save your whites there with the moon, and how to add the sky and the stars, which was done with a little bit of salt and a little bit of splattering of gouache. So, and the moon was saved by putting Nichiban tape over the top of that, and then cutting around it with the X-Acto knife really carefully. And after I painted my sky in, then I removed that Nichiban. The trees were just painted around. I just painted the sky around the trees, and I tipped it upside down for some of that. So as you may have noticed, I have a little swatch here because I want to finish this bottom part. And I was just playing around with some of the colors I might want to use. And I think most of these are the same, but in different combinations. But I like what was happening up here with the cobalt. I think that was Cobalt Green. Looks the same as that, Cobalt Green. So Cobalt Green, Cobalt Turquoise Light, and Cobalt Violet Light, and Cobalt Teal Blue is over here, Royal Blue, I believe. I can't remember now exactly which ones I put where, but I did have the Cobalt Green, the Cobalt Violet Light. I have the Cobalt Turquoise Light and Cobalt Teal and Royal Blue. List those all down in the description when so when you look down there, you'll be able to see what colors I actually used and where you can pick them up. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start I want to start with getting the paper a little wet where I'm just underneath where I'm starting, because I'm going to be going back and forth across the paper, and sometimes when I leave an area and go over to the other side, it's easy to forget a little bit when I'm involved over here, and this dries out a little bit too much. So I want to avoid that if I can. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little preventative water. And actually I'm going to come up into that tree and just paint some trees over the top of the moon. So what I'm going to do is start out with my Cobalt Teal Blue, and start up in the tree area. I'm going to leave a little light edge around the trees, kind of give it the, and there I added some Cobalt Green to give it the effect that the moon is like they're backlit. So just painting around that, and I'm just going to move across the page. I'm really not too concerned about it staying in the lines necessarily. I'm just playing around with the night sky. So I also didn't mention that I have this Amethyst Genuine, and it's a Primatech color by Daniel Smith that I also had up on that paper swatch. So I'm just adding these colors, and I'm really being bad because I'm not rinsing my brush. I'm just going right back into that paint puddle. But I feel like I'm going a little too want to go a little too fast to stop. I don't want to have to stop. So I'm going to just try to bring that paint down as I go here. And I'm thinking I want a little bit more dark. So in this royal blue, I think what I'm going to do is add some Hooker's Green to get that darkened up a little bit. And I've got my board tipped up, so helping the paint to flow. Thought I had my colors all planned out, and then, you know, sometimes that happens. You get started and realize, you know what, I need a little extra dark in there. So also what I want to do is drop in some more of that cobalt violet light while it's wet. Push that down. And I'm going to encourage that flow with some water. And if you notice, I'm up on the tip of the brush, but sometimes I'll go to the side or put the paint in like this, dropping it in. As long as that paint is still wet, it's still alive, so you can keep on adding to it. Get a little bit more of that green. In there. So as long as the paint is still wet, it's still alive, so to speak. Once it starts losing its sheen, you are losing the life. So you're in the danger zone. You're in danger of causing some problems like blossoms where you don't want them, and that's not really fun, and it's kind of hard to fix. So again, just keeping my board tipped up. I'm going to keep adding a little bit more green to that. And I'm paying attention to where the light might be shining through a little bit more. So I want to leave some lighter areas. And maybe the trees are going to be a little bit darker over here because they're further away from the moon. So I'm going to grab a little amethyst. The amethyst, when it dries, the pigments settle, and that's a really nice look. Cobalt violet light is a very opaque color, and when you add it in, you can see it. You can see it. It doesn't disappear. It holds its own in the color zone. Well, I should have gone into poetry. So again, I'm dropping in some water. Then I want to get a little darker. I can drop in that royal blue and the green mixture. Need it to be a little bit thicker. So it's going to dry lighter. Watercolor always dries lighter. I'm going to add a little bit more of that. It's so pretty. The Cobalt Turquoise. This is starting to dry. I might be in danger here of causing some unwanted blossoms, but I'm going to just go with it because it's really fun right now. And let's go over here and add a little bit darker. And come back here. Drop some more dark color in. Get a little darker around that moon. Hopefully you can see that. I'm probably tipping it way far away. All right, maybe a little bit more of that amethyst. Let's get a good thick mixture of that in some of the places. And if you notice, I'm not doing a lot of scrubbing with my brush. I'm just letting that paint flow and mingle. Mixing and mingling on its own is really what gives you some of the really beautiful effects of watercolor. You don't need to use your brush to get those looks, you know. Making a mess here. So I'm going to come down here and clean some of that up, get my brush dried off and soak some of it up. You'll hear that term juicy or thirsty brush. And that's just simply getting the moisture out of your brush so you can soak up what is on your paper. And I think I'm going to go with a little bit of a smaller brush, and this looks like it's still wet enough to get these trees a little bit darker. And then I'm going to put it aside, take a step back. A lot of times I just don't want to go back in. I really like the look of what's going on there. So I'm going to just leave it at that and then come back and see if maybe I want to do some more. But it's better to stop when you're not sure and take a step back. And a lot of times I'll come back to a painting and where I thought maybe it was going all kinds of wrong directions, I come back and I really, really like the way it looks after it's dried. And I have a chance to get away from it for a minute. So I'm going to let this dry and then take a look at it after that. So it's all dry now, and I've had a chance to look at it a little bit, and I think what I want to do is darken some of the upper part of this and then try to keep it soft down in here so it looks like more of the land and these look more like the trees. So the challenge is going to be to add that layer of darker paint over the top without lifting what's already laid down. And I think because of the paper I'm using, it's going to be a little bit easier. I've got a Saunders Waterford here, and what I'll need to do is just figure out how to get darker with the colors that are already on there. And I think the royal blue and the hooker's green, I just am going to, all I'm going to have to do is add another layer of that. So, and earlier I said I didn't finish my sentence. I was talking about how watercolor dries lighter. So when there's more water in the paint mixture, it's going to be lighter. So if you have a thicker mixture, which is what I was going for over here a little bit, I mentioned adding a thicker paint, because when it gets thicker, it's going to dry a little bit darker. So I wanted to clear that up and finish that statement. So I really like what the Amethyst has done. It's sparkly. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but it's got some really cool sparkles to it that I really like. So with the Amethyst, I think I also am going to add some hooker's green to that to darken it up. Not a whole lot. It does neutralize the purple, but it's dark, so the hooker's green is dark, so it'll help me to get that amethyst darker. So what I'm going for is a little bit thicker mixtures, but still wanting that mixture to have enough water in it to flow on the paper. And I'm going to tip it up again, and I want to have my teal and my cobalt turquoise all nice and moist and ready to go, so I can drop it in like I did before. But I do want to preserve some of the lighter areas, especially down low. Whoops. So I'm just going to go for it. That's all you have to do sometimes. You just have to go for it and be bold. And it's all about feeling. I'm trying to get a feeling for whether or not I've got enough paint and whether or not it's going to be thick enough. So I think I'll start, maybe I'll start over here. Actually, I think I'll start over here and get that mixture a little bit on the bluer side, but dark still. So mixing up a little bit more of a puddle. Let's see how this works out. I think it's cool how some of the teal is coming through. I'm trying not to cover that up. And right over here, I'm gonna go grab my amethyst mixture that's darker and bring those down. A little bit more. And it's nice, moist paint because I just squeezed it out of the tube, so that's kind of nice. I can just go grab it and have it ready to go pretty quickly. And I'm going to kind of just, I'm not going to get too concerned about the lines again. I don't want that to distract me from getting this paint down. Oh boy, I just realized what I've done. I was so involved in talking and trying to get across the objective here that I forgot that I was only going to do this about halfway down. So that's what happens sometimes. We'll see what I can do to maybe make something happen with that. That is how life works too. You just run into little speed bumps along the way. Doesn't always go super smoothly. And like this, I don't have enough mixed up. But one thing to mention as I'm doing this is I try to keep my paints on my palette organized in the same area. So when I set up my palette, I don't switch it around. If I get a new palette, I lay my paints out in the same basic place as it was on the prior one. So my hand knows that and just goes to that place automatically. And I kind of liked that. I left it that way because it looked kind of cool. And then I'm gonna get some more of the amethyst and come down. I'm kind of forgetting about my little cobalt violet though. Let's put some of that in there. Might end up looking funny if I don't cover over it. Now my thought here is, what if I did something like this and just let the water create for me what I forgot to do, which was create a land area. That might work out actually. And then use some more water to drop in there. And I think what I'll do too is get a little bit more of that dark royal blue and hooker's green and come right across that line. And then cause a little bit of flow there. I don't know, we'll see. You can't know unless you do something, right? Actually, I think that's kind of cool looking, so I'm kind of happy that I did that. Let's see. How about a little bit more cobalt violet down in here? Okay, I need some over here to kind of unify the whole thing. And this is a waterier mixture of the Cobalt Turquoise. All right, I don't know how that's going to look after it dries, but we'll soon find out. So I'm going to set it aside and take a look at it after it's had a time to dry and settle down. Get that a little bit down there. Okay, well, I'm just going to set this aside, let it dry, and we'll see what happens when I come back. Now I'm just trying to decide what I can do to possibly finish this painting, make it a little bit more of a success than I feel like it is right now. So bear with me. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of come down to this line with another layer of paint, and then we'll just see how it goes. This is totally improvising. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do. So let's just get my number 10 Escoda Versatil and just go for it. Sometimes you just have to go for it and see what happens. So I'm going to get my paint colors that I was using in here, see if I can remember. It's been a little bit of time. So let's just see what happens. See what happens with this. And I do want to get a little bit of my Cobalt Turquoise light by Holbein. I think that's what I put in there initially, so I want to have that kind of sitting around ready to go. But I am going, I want to go a little bit thicker in my paint so it is darker. And I'm just gonna, this one's pretty dark already, but I'm just gonna start there anyway. It feels like a good starting point. So also I've got some Amethyst Genuine by Daniel Smith that I'm going to be adding into this as well. And a dark blue, I think that is my ultramarine, so I'm going to drop some of that in here and there and just bring it down. I'm not going to really be paying attention to much of the shape of the tree as much as just getting some darkness down to this little line that is intended to be land. So there's my amethyst I'm going to add. I've also got some cobalt violet light that I want to drop in here and there too. I like that color, and that's a Holbein color. I will post what I'm using in the description below so you can find those paint colors and the brush and all of that by clicking on the links. So coming up on the tip of my brush, some of this I'm going up on the side. I'm going to make this a little bit more solid. My paint is pretty watery, but I'm trying to thicken it up as much as I can. I'm going to make a little bit more of a solid area over on the left. It's a little bit further away from that moon. I really like these phthalo colors, the green and the turquoise, I believe that is. So now I do want some of the shadow to come down in here, but just not all of it. I kind of got carried away. I got caught up in the moment and forgot what I was doing. Happens. So just a little more solid over on this side. see if you can see that. I'm tipping my board up so I get the gravity helping me out a bit. And it's going to drag a little line across there. And I don't want to get it dark down here, so I'm just going to let that paint flow a little bit with some clear water, rinsing my brush off and getting some more clear water so it softens it. And bring those all the way down. And I think what I'll do is try to get darker down here by adding some Carbazzo Violet. That's a Daniel Smith color, and I'm going to mix that. I think that is Phthalo Green by Daniel Smith. And I'm just touching the very tip of my brush. I'm not using a heavy hand. I don't want to do that. I just want a real soft touch. So come up a little bit darker in these areas. I feel like the trees in front of the moon should really be dark. And I'm just going to bring that color over a little bit. Again, using a soft touch and skipping across the paper a little bit so I don't fill in every single space. I like how that looks, actually. It's really pretty. And mix up a little bit more of that. Kind of didn't quite get enough. And it's starting to dry out over here, so I might be pushing it on getting that color over. Let's add just some of that straight. I think that's Phthalo blue turquoise, or Phthalo turquoise. One of those. I'll look at what it is after I'm done, and when I post the links in the description, I'll let you know for sure. But I think at this point I would be finished with it. I don't want to do any more. So I'm just going to let this dry and see what it looks like when I come back. When we come back, we can take a look at that. I think I'll put a couple little lines in there. Define that land area up there, and that kind of looks like the light is coming through the base of those trees, so I like how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside and let it dry, and we'll come back and see what it looks like in a little bit. Okay, so it's all dry, and I really like what I'm seeing here. I'm kind of not sure if I'm bothered by it or not, because the moon could be, you know, shining this way, but I felt like maybe this lighter area should have been over here, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. The other thing I thought to do was to lift out maybe just a little touch of light here and there with my Winsor & Newton number 2 Bright. This is a stiff bristle. Just a touch here and there might be kind of nice. So I'm going to do that, and then I feel like this should be enough. And I really like actually how the greens in here, the stars play off of that. So that's kind of a nice touch to this painting. So just a little touch of light where the moon might be hitting the ground at the base of the tree line. That might be kind of nice. They're not quite even, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. This was just a fun little piece to see what I could do to create the stars and the lights in the sky, and the brightness of the moon coming through those trees, the backlighting those trees. So I hope you guys learned and go experiment with doing the sky. And you can see that in the previous video when I think it was called, what was it called? The Stars Shine Bright, or the Dark Starry Night, I think is what it was. Anyway, so thanks for watching. Hope you guys have fun painting, and take care. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.